Cows are very communal. This is pretty good pasture. It's improved pasture. It's fertilised with phosphorus and relevant trace elements. It's a subclover based grass pasture. Subclover fixes nitrogen.
They're currently emitting methane and other things.
So the methane comes out the front. The fibre comes out the back. Cows are ruminants, and so unlike you, you're monogastrics. You use all sorts of horrible processes to break down food. Cows use bacteria, and the bacteria break down the feed, and then the bacteria break down, and that's the nutrition source for the cows. Hence you get some byproduct like methane and some other things. So this pasture is a subclover nitrogen fixing pasture, and the grass grows from the nitrogen fixed by the subclover. It's a very sustainable system. It's a very broad system in Australia. The subclover came from the Mediterranean region of Europe. It's sustainable. It's fixing carbon as we stand here. Whether it's producing more than the cows, whether it's fixing more than the cows are producing is a question that I'll let Jo have a go at if she wants to when I let her. But the important thing is that that's a pretty sustainable system. If we didn't have cows, how do we make a quid out of those hectares through fixing carbon and contributing to environmental health? Now people say, oh well, you get paid for sequestering carbon. No you don't. I haven't found a way to make money out of sequestering carbon. There are some pathways and there's some biodiversity policies that pretend to pay money for protecting biodiversity. Usually policy uses regulation. So when you guys are in important positions making policy, just remember there's a suite of policy instruments. Regulation's one. If you beat me with a stick, I'm probably going to fight you. And I'll fight long and hard with all of my industry behind me. If you offer me some incentives, market or otherwise, I'll probably smile and give you a cup of coffee and not fight you. If you help me learn and experience and provide me with good information sources that are evidence, I'll probably smile and give you a coffee. And that's Ted's broad policy suite. Now you can make that really wide. So when you're talking policy, just have a think about whether you choose regulation.
The cows are wanting an incentive, Ted. They don't like being regulated.
You don't get hay until the snow's on the ground. This little steer here is castrated, lost his testicles. He will sell in late March for $1,500 to $1,800. This cow with the blue tag is around $3,000 at the moment, but usually more like $800. So prices are really high.
Yep.
How do we make money out of this paddock if we don't grow cows? Can we sequester carbon? Who will pay us for it? How do we do that? Remembering that all through this landscape is full of deer. What are the things that deer do? They kill trees really well. And they eat seedlings. So part of the research program all across these hills on ours and our big neighbours' places is aimed at looking at what damage deer do, at how much deer control we need so that the impact on regeneration and recruitment of native vegetation is lessened.
That'll be good in the movie.
That sounds really good, doesn't it?
Yeah, get some B-roll.
So we can't go to a revegetation program until we get the impact from deer down.
And that's been our first wicked problem, because I would love to have a tree farm. Yeah.
And we're happy to sequester carbon through commercial processes, but we can't plant one tree at the moment without getting much better control of deer.
So Ted, weight for weight, how many deer make a calf like that?
This one, well, he's probably equivalent to about 1.5 deer, maybe 2.
So 2 deer, or you have 2 deer or 1 calf?
I'd give five deer to a mature cow like this blue tag, and it's based on body weight and energy needed to maintain body weight. So a cow's worth about 10 dry sheep equivalent.
Yeah. I mean, these are not deer-proof fences. Deer are extraordinarily adept at getting through fences, over, under, through. Yeah. Sorry, the fences, these sort of fences are not a limitation. When you drive back towards Jindabyne, you'll see on your left-hand side, some of our deer group local people are now building deer-proof fences, which cost a lot of money because of bad government policy.
And they also established barriers across the landscape.
Yeah.
We foxbait and dogbait very, very well. And one of the reasons we did that is there were no emus here. You would see an odd one when we first came. And now you will see 4 or 5 old men emus with chicks up the top. So we've greatly increased our emu population, and they're quite magnificent animals through fox baiting. But emus have to travel, you know, they're big animals, they need a lot of food over a large area. And most emus can handle most agricultural fences, and most other animals can too. They go under them or over them or through them. But the minute you start putting up a pest animal proof fence, like the ones you will see on the drive out, you actually cut off all the local animal traffic. Joe and I have a problem with that. It doesn't fit with our landscape outcome. It doesn't fit with our people outcome, because when you start building fences, they're barriers, not just to animals, but they also make the neighbour look at you a bit differently too. That might be it.
Scott, yeah, may invite students for
Question, comment?
one final sort of question that you think would help your fellows.
Make money out of carbon?
I don't want to say make money out of carbon. I was thinking more pragmatically about saying something clever in their report.
Oh, okay. Say something clever.
No pressure. No, I was going to ask about, in terms of the feral horses, you said you don't care where they are if they're not in the national park, but some animal cruelty activists are wanting them to be on private property so that they're not culled instead. But with the numbers you've said, is that viable, do you think, or do you need to have culling as well as that?
Relocating horses is a really complex thing. It's not good for animal welfare. You put a horse, you catch a feral horse, try and yard it up, get it into a truck, take it somewhere. That is an extremely stressful event for that animal. Not a good thing. They might be all right when they get there, but then, so what's happening at the moment is that public money is feeding horses in the public land that private people want to protect. Like, who should pay? There's the whole who should pay thing too, really, to protect them. It's crazy.
I met with the animal rights people in the upper house in New South Wales Parliament, and they said people vote for us because they think we're about welfare. We're actually just about rights. And if we came down to your farm, we'd be telling you to let your cows run free. I said, if you do that, they'll die. I said, it's not about welfare, it's about the rights of animals to exist. I then said, if we let animals like foxes exist, other things that have been here a long time die. This is not our problem. So you've got to be careful with the agenda, but to answer your question, you can think about humaneness in some quantitative terms, and say there's a tier of activities that cause a different level of stress. So if you're going to walk a horse 200 metres to a happy place, that's a really low level of stress and you should do it. If you're going to do as Joe says, chase them for 20 kilometres, round them up in steel yards, constrain them, put them up a race into a covered truck, drive them 600 kilometres to the Hunter Valley, which is one of the major takers of feral horses, you've got a really stressed animal. The chances are it'll be cut, it'll have broken some bones, or it will kill itself in its attempt to escape. So when you look at that, you say, what are the other levels of humaneness you can apply? It's probably better to corral that horse in a less stressful way as possible, helicopter mustering or mustering with other horses, and to shoot it on sight. Shooting brings instant, no stress existence, you're dead. So there's some really good papers that I can send Rob on how you think through the humaneness issue. And it's all about calculating the level of stress and then picking the least stressful pathway.
And that work has gone through the scientific advisory panel under the Wild Horse Heritage Bill that Deputy Premier put forward. So the scientific advisory panel has recently recommended that decision-making framework about
And always remember that Brumby running, which is touted as something that's fun, in involves the horse that's being ridden to exhaustion, and the horse
They're
that's,
bored.
and the horse that's being chased to exhaustion to the point where you can walk up to it, put a rope on it, tie it to a tree. And it's very inhumane practice. So I'll give you a couple of those papers on humaneness calculations, Rob. They're really good. And in fact, the pro horse people were very much aligned with acknowledging the level of stresses from different practices in feral horses. And the same thing happens with deer. They're not that much different. Deer require really special handling, and they're still stressed out of their brain, even with special handling. Any other quick questions before Rob goes?
I think the cows are starting to make quite a lot of noise in the background.
Yeah.
They're good looking. These cows are in really good condition.
They are.
But we have very little feed over winter. So while we can go to the fridge and stock up on joggies, these guys have to keep chasing cellulose and grass fibre. And from about the end of April, it's pretty tough going, so we supplementary feed a great deal. And that's one of the things that makes running cattle up here a bit problematic. When you have 3 feet of snow, if you don't get feed to the cow within 3 days, they die of hypothermia because they haven't been able to keep their gut working. So in 3 feet of snow, it becomes really hard work really quickly, especially if you're running 500 of these things to get feed to them. Because they won't move, they hate it. That's it, thanks for coming.
Yeah.
You're welcome
thank
to
you.
email us with any questions.
Yep.
If you're travelling down this way,
I have cards
You're
for
welcome.
anyone who would want to come back
and
and,
if you
do
can
some
bring
work.
some Go mates with you, they're welcome too.
Yeah.
Because we've
No,
got a
we
lot to
welcome
learn.
visitors, whatever. So